The Hurling Show, brought to you in association with Torpy. Torpy are leading hurling into a new future with Bamboo, a revolutionary hurley created using their unique engineered hurling performance know-how. Already being used by many inter-county players, Torpy's Bamboo is highly sustainable, offers players greater striking distance and a more consistent balance every time, without compromising on natural feel. Check them out on the Torpy website and in the link below, and enter the promo code OurGame to get yourself 10% off. We're only mad to throw the ball in, Michael Verney, aren't we?
Ah, sure, that's what it's all about. There's so much to discuss this weekend as well. Loads of club angles, and it's gas. The county season is over, but as we'll talk about in a minute, there's a lot of counties, I suppose, trying to ensure their futures are safe, isn't there, over the next while, with different initiatives and different things starting behind the scenes. And as Donald Maloney said to me, the former Clare manager, he just said, if you don't act now, you have a fallow period in a decade's time. So I think there's a lot of counties trying to get their house in order to make sure that they're up there with the Limericks or whoever is on top in the next 10 years.
Yeah, because you can let the whole thing down just by not having those things right. We've seen Cork do it in the last few years. They have an athletic kind of director, and that's probably not the right word, but someone who oversees the athletic development of players throughout their, I think, underage and coming into senior, and that sort of stuff is massive. You look at their under 20s now, and they already look like full-grown men, an awful lot of them, and some who even have another year to go at under 20. It's massive. So we'll jump into that in a second. Just a reminder, we are brought to you by the Torpy Bamboo Hurley. I think it might even be sold out at the moment, but keep having a look for it. It is absolutely classic. Get some distance on it. A reminder that do subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner if you're on YouTube. It does help the channel grow. We'd really appreciate that, and it's absolutely free. If you want the audio podcast, go to patreon.com/OurGame, and it's a great way to support the channel also. One thing we are going to come to in a little while is it's Ryder Cup week. You wanted to do this, Michael Verney, and to be honest, I was loving it as soon as you brought it up. But there's the Team Europe against the Team USA. We're thinking, what about Team Munster against Team Rest of Ireland? Because, you explain why it's Team Munster and not Team Leinster versus Team Rest of Ireland.
Well, I think it's all about timing. At the moment, we did our power rankings, and in fairness, we had Munster teams, as much as it pained me, we had Munster teams 1 to 5. So, like picking a best selection from the teams that are ranked 1 to 5 going against the rest would not be good enough, or going against Leinster would not be good enough. So we're trying to make it a bit more interesting. Take in Connacht, take in Antrim, maybe a couple of others, and see what we come up with. But I think it'll be interesting enough. We're going to pick captain, like the Pádraig Harrington or Steve Stricker of both sides, and 2 vice captains, and then our best 15 from Munster and our best 15 rest of Ireland as well. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and the only thing we've agreed beforehand is the captains. Everything else is completely up for debate. So get your comments in and let us know what you think. Especially
be interesting to see what people think as well. I don't think the captains was up for debate, so that's why we settled on that. And obviously, you wanted to have a nice image like you'd see on Sky Sports or wherever over the weekend ready. But I think everybody's in Ryder Cup mood. Like I actually don't have the channel, so I'd have to be creative in finding ways to watch it, and I'll probably bits of clips on Twitter and stuff like that, and probably lounging in someone else's house for a couple hours at different stages over the weekend. But it is a great weekend, and we obviously had the Railway Cup in hurling and football. We don't have that anymore. That was our closest equivalent to the Ryder Cup. Obviously, with the provinces are all within the one country. But I think that'll create plenty of debate as well.
So I remember when I was young, the way some lads would have the channels and some wouldn't. Now, to be fair to our mother, she gave up the cigarettes and put the money into the pot every week that she was able to pay for BBC or Sky or whichever it was we got at the time. And then there was some lads who only had, you only have POV RTE 1 and 2.
Yeah, we like that. At least ye had the channels. Remember, we got the box at one stage, and remember it was channels 1 to 12 on the box. But I think it was 5 and 6 used to be Sky Sports. But when you didn't have Sky Sports, it was just like a flashing screen on 5 and 6. So I remember watching a full wrestling pay-per-view through this blinkety thing, and you could hear words and see pictures every now and then. That's how desperate we were. And then on the odd occasion, there'd be some sort of glitch in the system where you would have Sky, you'd have it for it would just be on for some reason. And it was like when Chandler and Joey had explicit channels on their TV. They didn't want to change the channel in case they lost that channel. So I didn't change the Sky, and you'd leave it on, and you'd go to bed, but chances are it wasn't still on when you got up the next day.
Well, do you know, actually, I was a massive Blackburn Rovers fan when I was a young lad. And to be fair, before anyone says, I didn't just start supporting them once they won the league. 2 years beforehand, Alan Shearer's debut, I saw him scoring twice in a 3-3 draw with Crystal Palace. So, yeah, says I want a piece of this. Now, I wasn't thinking historically, these lads are obviously going to sink back down again because Blackburn have historically not been unbelievable. And for the day of winning the Premier League title in 1995, you know, the day that Man United went to West Ham and Blackburn went to Liverpool, and there was all that drama. But I was too nervous as a young lad to go up to the pub to watch it. We didn't have the channels, but what we did have was, like you said, the scrambled channel. So I could hear all the commentary and stuff like that. But I wasn't really sure what was happening because, you know, the way Jamie Redknapp scored that late free kick, it was all kicking off in down at Upton Park. And it's gas. Actually, you just mentioned that. It was great fun back.
It's funny what you remember growing up, like Colin Hendry, Shearer, Mike Newell, Chris Sutton, all these names just throughout your childhood. And I can remember Jamie Redknapp hitting an absolute peach of a free kick nearly with the last kick of the game, and they were beaten 2-1 at Anfield, and you thought they were after missing their chance. But yeah, geez, brings back good memories. Yeah. Plenty
of comments flying in there. A couple of the boys are turning on Flash. He's getting his comments in. I'm sure it's only tongue-in-cheek, but keep the comments coming in, lads. We've seen there, we'll talk about some of these initiatives at the moment. We're going to come to club stuff later on too, of course. There's some unbelievable matches going on this weekend. But former Watford hurling hurler Kevin Ryan, now he's been appointed to manage the implementation of Watford GA's 10-year strategic plan, which will be called Watford Rising. And this is something now you've obviously, you mentioned talking to Donald Maloney, the former Clare joint hurling manager. There's stuff going on in different counties. We've seen the likes of Limerick, and their plan has, look at the fruit that it's kind of yielded at this stage. Look at what happened with Dublin and the Blue Wave. So you do need to plan. And then you would look at other counties and say, well, where is your plan? What's the overarching kind of thing that's going on here at the moment? And you do sort of wonder. But like even Offaly, your own Offaly, you can see the strides you've made in such a short space of time that if you do get things right, you can kick on, and fair play to Michael Dignan and everyone there. But some of the quotes from Kevin Ryan I thought were interesting. He's currently involved with, he's Clara manager in Kilkenny as far as I know. He's been involved with Rowan Offaly, he was involved with Antrim, he was involved with Carlow. So he's kind of done the rounds, he knows the situation. And he says it's the whole strategy. It's looking 10 years ahead to progress things further. One thing we certainly talked about in the strategy is about winning the All-Ireland, about that Holy Grail, but also what happens after that. We don't want a situation where we win an All-Ireland, then it's job done and things fall back the way that they were. It all works together, getting Walsh Park renovated, sourcing funds to help the county teams to function at an elite level. The more of these things that are done, the easier it is to attract kids and parents. Winning All-Ireland is Liam Cahill's job now as manager, and we wouldn't be interfering with him in any way, but we'll be there to help in any way we can, such as financing. And I have to say that this line really struck a chord with me. Good luck to Limerick GA. It's fabulous to have a benefactor like they have, but we haven't got that. I'm sure there are people out there who contribute, and we'll be looking to draw on people's interest in the game, but participation is a big focus for me. It is kind of interesting there. That's obviously a reference to JP McManus and the fact that he's able to put his hands in his pocket for Limerick. But you might take up that point and even your interview with Donald Maloney this week.
Yeah, it's actually funny to see that Limerick are doing a big fundraiser at the moment there's a Ford Kuga up for grabs in a draw, isn't there? Which is not something that you...
Tip have a car up in a draw at the moment as well.
Yeah, it's just that with Limerick having, as you say, a big benefactor, it's not something that I can recall over the last couple of years, but they're obviously looking to generate even more funds. But that's obviously what Watford are doing, and definitely very ambitious plans there. And I was chatting to Donald Maloney. I was actually chatting to him in the run-up to the football final just to get his view on joint managers, Fergal Logan and Brian Dewar with Tyrone, because he was obviously joint manager with Jerry O'Connor for many years and had unbelievable success. I think they won 5 Munster titles in a row with Clare, 2010-11 at minor, and then the next 3 at under 21, including 3 All-Irelands. But Clare have slipped back, and everybody saw that 40-point annihilation to Cork earlier on this year. And I was just, asking him like, what's happening or what needs to happen. And he just said about that they have slipped an awful lot, that they need to get their eyes back on the ball. He mentioned the likes of Brian O'Connell, who captained Clare, Cyril Lyons, who's obviously brought Clare to the All-Ireland in 2002, Sean Stack, who's a very well got coach, PJ Fitzpatrick as well, who's Paddy's father, I believe, who plays at 6 Mile Bridge in Clare. He mentioned about getting all those sort of guys back involved, mixed with a lot of younger lads as well. Donal has thrown himself back into the underage development squads again, so he's not just talking a good game, he's thrown himself head first back into it after already giving about 10 or 12 years to Clare and not really getting off that treadmill. He's back on it again. And obviously there's been a lot of talk about, I would say, the Centre of Excellence in Carlow, which was opened, I think, in 2012, and which seems to have fallen below the standards now. So they're looking to get back up those levels again. He said it won't happen overnight, but he said, I think it was kind of crucial. He said, if you have the right people involved at a structural level and an organizational level, kids will buy into that structure and will buy into the people that are, selling them the product. Essentially, it's basic, nearly like a business principle. And it's just interesting to hear him say that. And it seems like they have a lot of really good guys back involved. He said basically that all those successes with an exceptional group, the likes of probably who's involved, Tony Kelly, Colin Galvin, Peter Duggan, etc. He said you could trace their development back to nearly 4 or 5 people in Clare. And he just said they're trying to get a lot of those guys back involved. And he just said we basically need to go back to what we were doing. We took our eyes off the prize. Same thing happened in Offaly. When Offaly were flying in the 90s, the eye was on there and now. The eye wasn't on what's coming. And that quote I said to you earlier, like, if you neglect now, fine, you might get away with it now and people won't be talking about it as much. But it's the same at club level. Why haven't we got senior hurlers in 10 years' time? Why aren't they as of the same quality as what came before them? And that's only natural. If you take your eye off the ball now, you will suffer later. So they're trying to get their eyes back on the prize. And it won't be easy, because as that 6-28 to 6 points defeat to Cork in the minor championship would suggest this year, they're a fair way behind. But as we've seen with managers coming in, and even with my own Offaly, things can change very, very quickly when, as Donal says, the right people are involved.
And the other problem with that Clare team is last year they didn't even have an under-16 competition ran. So how well prepared can you be as a player if you haven't had a chance to test yourself? If you're the county manager, how are you supposed to know who's currently the foreign players in the county if you haven't even seen any of them in well over a year? Obviously, the pandemic played its part in that. But I'd love to know, who do people think are, you talked about the interview with Donal Maloney, and he said that you could nearly trace it back to 4 or 5 people. Who are those people in other counties? I think of Galway there and all the minor successes they have. And, it's obviously not just down to him, but Matty Murphy, he won six All-Ireland minor titles between 92 and 2013. Paddy Butler would have had a big hand in a lot of players coming through with Tipperary over the years. There are guys like that all over the country. So it'd be interesting if people got in their comments.
Just on that, Shane, like the Offaly success in the 80s and 90s would have been brother Dennis Minahan, who was principal of St. Brendan's Community School, and all the Burr successes nearly would be traced back to brother Vincent, who was in the primary school in Burr. They would, like, it's too easy to say that, but they were at the forefront of, they took lads out of class, they took lads off to matches. Hurling was part of the curriculum every day. That was just the way it was, and they would be credited by everybody involved in those squads as having a huge bearing on the success. So it would be interesting to hear who the other people are. I obviously know the ones close to my county, and you would know the ones in your county, but there are probably a lot of silent heroes. Donal actually mentioned this as well, a lot of silent heroes within counties maybe that don't get the credit they deserve unless they win an All-Ireland or something like that. So those silent heroes are present in every county.
Brother Damien is someone who's mentioned regularly with Kilkenny hurling. You hear a few of the former players mention him. There was a quote that really stood out from Donal Maloney. But it's hurling or football, that's what the crowds come to see, not managerial egos. Wonder what he's talking about down there. I'd say everyone has an idea. Whether it's Ronaldo or Tony Kelly, we don't shape them. They actually emerged and hit the genetic jackpot, so to speak. And they emerge as the brilliant people that they are. Sometimes managers end up with a lot of plaudits on the back of some of those brilliant players. Obviously, the manager has got to shape the environment so that the performance can happen for the team. But great players are what makes teams, in my belief. It's the players and their capability on the pitch that gives the manager the platform. I mean, it's so true. You do need the right players. And a lot of times for a manager, just don't be the person who spoils it. Just make sure that it's an environment where players feel like they can express themselves, obviously, where everyone knows what their role is, but also where merit is a huge thing. like you get a great culture when everyone knows where they are in the pecking order, and they kind of understand why you're either on the team or why you're just off the team or why you're not being used as a sub, and you feel like if I kick on, I can move up and down this ladder. That you don't feel like no matter what happens, because he's the manager's son or his nephew or whatever, or they have the manager's ear, that person's always going to be in, and this person's always going to be out because he's not related to the right family or whatever. That's the sort of stuff that spoils an environment. And you hear so many clubs that there's a toxic environment. It often comes back to that sort of stuff. So like there's the ego problem, and then there's like the those other issues that I've just kind of talked about.
Yeah, no, totally. For any player, whether he's, number 1 or number 30, he has to feel like he has a chance. He has to feel like he's getting equality and he's getting fairness and he's getting a good shot. And if he's lighting it up in training, that he'll get a chance. There are some players, I'm sure, that think they're banging their head against the wall no matter what they do in a club, or potentially no matter what they do in a county setup, that they're not getting a fair go. And just back to the managerial egos thing, I do think, I don't know, like, is the GA starting to resemble the Premiership in many ways now, where, the focus is all on the manager a bit more? Like, with Chelsea would say the focus was all on Mourinho. With Spurs, the focus was all on Mourinho. With United, the focus was all on Mourinho. With Chelsea, the second time, the focus was all on Mourinho. With Roma, the focus is all on Mourinho. There are probably some cases where that's true in the GA now as well. But at the end,
we don't get to hear the players, so it ends up, and often they don't seem to be allowed out to do a commercial deal or to speak to the media as part of that commercial deal. So you don't get to know them, and the only person, or the person that often is stopping them, is the manager who, guess what? He's talking to the media every week, building his profile, and he ends up with commercial deals. So I think there's a real issue there. You look at the NFL, obviously I talk about that a lot, but these lads are out mouthing all the time, and it's brilliant. It's entertaining, and they end up with so many commercial deals because of it. And they kind of, slag each other and all that kind of stuff. But generally, it's in good spirit. Like, look at Tom Brady. He's constantly sneering on Instagram these days, which is very different to when he was with the Patriots or Bill Belichick. He said nothing. Now we're seeing his personality. It's great. And is it affecting his performance? Absolutely not. He's lighting it up with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, well, I've always said that, like, I can't understand, how a manager wouldn't trust a player to speak to the media, but yet he trusts him or her to do their job on the pitch. I can never understand that. It's a lack of trust that someone will say something that might get them in trouble. I think players need to, that element of fear needs to be, taken away, because at the end of the day, and I see you're going to talk about there in a minute about the new edict that's coming down, where the GA are going to release all the teams every Friday evening to help promote the games. Like, to me, one of the most important roles of an inter-county player in particular is to promote the games. Like, we need to know more about Tony Kelly. We need to know, it's great to see, and I know it's in the wake of the All-Ireland, but it's great to see Conor Myler and Kieran McGeary and these boys talk openly about whether it's mental health problems or it's thinking too much about the game. The amount of players that will learn from their experiences, the amount of players, I guarantee you, because I was in the same situation myself, the amount of players that will think, when Conor Myler says, I was overanalyzing everything, I was thinking too much, it was affecting my performance. I've been in that boat. You've probably been in that boat at some stage as well. The amount of players that will get stuff out of that and will learn and develop out of that is huge. And we just need to hear more from players in an unfiltered environment. And I know it's in the wake of an All-Ireland, so they feel like it's okay to speak, but it would be great to hear more of that. Because, like, I remember reading an interview with Ross Munley in the Sunday Independent years ago. I think it was about 16 or 17 when I read it at the time. And one quote, it was in bold, and I remember he said, I made a conscious decision never to drink or smoke when I was 17 in order to fulfill my potential. And I was just like, I read that and I was like, that makes total sense. Now, I'm not saying I was ever going to fulfill any potential like that, but that made total sense to me, and that totally stuck with me. And that probably shaped my view on life and on GAA. So it would be great to hear more from our inter-county stars. Yeah, the managers are great, and it's great to hear for them. A lot of the time, it is too much about them. And we just want to learn. Like, if I'm chatting to a player and you're chatting to a player the week of a match, like, I'm going to ask them 1 or 2 questions about the match. They're not. What can they say about the match?
They can't. Realistically, it's going to be a massive battle.
You want to know, okay, what does this lad work at? What makes him tick? What are his routines like? In a way, you want to pick up something from him or her. And you want your audience to as well. And that's when I'm writing a piece, I want to do the exact same. We just want to know more about the people who are putting themselves out there in the arena.
Yeah, like even you mentioned last week, the St. Anne's player, Mikey Fogarty, he's a jockey on the side. That makes the story. Or you spoke with Joe O'Connor, the fact that he has a coffee shop. Like we both interviewed many players, and it's that stuff away from it. You just want to find out the interesting character. But I have to say, I think that players in Ulster do lead the line when it comes to speaking a bit more openly to the media. And like you mentioned Conor Myler, but I can also think of Ronan McNamee being very open, doing an interview about his troubles a while back. Niall Morgan is quite open. In general, and I just picked one county there, but in general, they're quite good at talking to the media. Yeah, off-season, you will get players now and again in other parts of the country. Generally, you can talk away to a good few Dublin players after they've won All-Irelands, meet them in whatever hotel after, and that's fine. But just as you mentioned, the squad's been announced publicly. So we kind of mentioned this last week, that the counties, they had to give up the team sheets for the match program purposes no later than 9 a.m. on a Thursday before a weekend fixtures. But a lot of them, Dublin would never release their fixture until kind of Saturday during the day, even if they were playing Saturday in the evening. But now the GAA to release the team and substitute lists more than 24 hours before the matches, which, like, a lot of people would be like, it's not a big deal. But in terms of like promoting the game, we already don't get interviews with players for like much of the year, and sometimes you never hear from certain players or certain counties really. But at least now, and that hurts the promotion of the game. If you win to win those hearts and minds, this is a very positive step. People might think it's a thing and nothing, but just the fact that on a Thursday or on a Friday night, you and I, let's say we decide, oh geez, there's a big match between Tip and Cork tomorrow. We'll have the teams on the Friday night to talk about and give you something extra to talk about and promotes the game a little bit more. I think it's important.
Yeah, listen, you can say that, that's not the team that's going to start or whatever. But if you go on Twitter every Friday night and the teams come up, people will comment on them. And particularly now, you're going to have to name the 26. People are going to have to be able to see the 26. So you know who is or who is not available for that weekend match. And me and you would talk on a Thursday, as we are today, and we would speculate, who's going to be in the 26. I expect him to be here, him to be there. If you know on the Friday night, I think that would definitely shape my view on the game a bit, and would probably shape your view. But the key to it is promoting the games, and that's what it's all about. And I think managers and players need to remember that. I know you don't want to release any state secrets or anything like that, but at the end of the day, you want to promote more kids to play GAA, be it hurling football, camogie or ladies football within your county and around the country. To me, that's nearly one of the primary duties or roles of an inter-county player or of a club player. You want to look after the next generation. You want to inspire them. And even if it's something as simple as that, naming teams and being a bit more transparent, I think that would help.
Jared M says, get over yourselves. Players aren't there to provide cheap headlines, usually as a result of something they said that's subsequently taken out of context. That does happen. It happens occasionally, but for the most part, that isn't really what happens. And
no, this isn't like two lads in the media saying that more lads should be doing interviews. I just think it promotes the games better. That's all. I just think it promotes the games better. It builds up games better. Like in the build up to the All-Ireland, was the All-Ireland hurling final. Like it was quite low key, even 4 or 5 days out, just because there's not enough out there. There's probably not enough player interviews out there. Not enough things in the background going on. Like you look at the Super Bowl final, like Jesus, the coverage that would feature. I only mentioned to you off air about the Ryder Cup, some of the access, some of the videos that are going around, be it Conor Moore doing impressions, be it Team Europe putting out different videos, and like that just heightens the emotion around everything and heightens the expectation. We're not looking for like loads of content or really mad revealing stuff. You just want to promote the games. I think promotion is the key thing.
And not that a player should be forced to. I mean, no one's looking to force it, but just if a player is happy to talk to the media, like I know this is club level, but in 2015, we won a first county title with Coola in 21 years, and I was asked to do an interview with the Sunday Indo. And Matty Kenny had told the players after we'd won the county final, it was 6 days later we were going to be playing Coolderry. He was like, okay, lads did interviews straight after the match. He said, lads, just leave it at that now for the rest of the week. We've loads of interviews done. And I got on to him and I just said, look, I understand, but like, I'd like to help build my own profile because I'm trying to build my career, etc., etc. So I'd like to do this. And he was like, oh yeah. It was more like he was there thinking, no, just the younger lads, they've done interviews, maybe to just keep it cool for the rest of the week. But like, you know, you're grand, you're an older fella. It doesn't really matter.
Makes total sense, yeah.
And that's the kind of the more grown up way to do it. I'm not saying every week that a manager would be okay with that, but just in general, this feeling that it's off limits, I think, doesn't help the game. But not everyone will agree, as we've seen there. Jared doesn't agree. And
some are more comfortable than others, Shane. Like, there's a couple of there's certain lads, say within the Dublin setup and within any setup, that would be glad to do an interview and no problem at all. Then there's others that don't want to do it, and that's fine. But the ones that are happy to do it, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Yeah, Aidan O'Shea and Keane Lynch, they're tipping away there on Instagram, and some of them on TikTok and all that. And, you know, more power to them. The more you see of the personality, the better. Just kind of, as we're just finishing up talking about those Waterford Rising, Clare Rising, we've heard Carlow Rising, stuff like that. The Sligo County Board has announced the creation of a new under-18, under-19 development squad with the stated ambition to create a pathway from juvenile to adult football at inter-county level, and to build on some of Sligo's recent underage promise. They actually won a first county minor in 53 years at the grade earlier this year. Mayo GAA, they've announced a new partnership with GMIT that will see students from their sports science degree programme working with Mayo GAA teams. The sports science student placement will run over a 3-year period commencing in January next year, and see final year students from the GMIT that gain valuable sports performance. And that's something that should probably happen across the board. You know, like, I'm sure Dublin GAA benefits massively from having all those colleges around. You know, I see Tipperary and, you know, Satanta's there and all. Like, all of these places should be looking to do link-ups where there's sports science or anything that's of any relevance. Just need to find a way to make the most out of that.
I think there was a link up in Cavan as well, Shane, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Was there a link up with Cavan and some businesses even in the area? Like, all those things are great. You see some minor teams linking up with schools to do, let's say, be it Irish grinds or whatever it is. Any sort of link up like that, be it educational, be it sporting or otherwise, is great. Anything that helps develop players on and off the pitch can only be, you know, lauded.
Skill says, why do these interviews need to happen during the playing season? Do it in the off season or release it during the season. Let the players do what they want during the playing season. I suppose you could do that, but certainly the appetite is at its highest during the middle of the season. But, you know, you could interview a player in, let's say, January, before any matches have been played. And then are you talking about releasing the interview in May, by which stage huge stuff has happened across the world, a pandemic might have happened, and all that stuff might be out of date. So that could be a massive issue.
Player could be injured.
Player could be injured. So a lot of the time you're talking about, you know, things have moved on a little bit, and it might seem very, like, someone might read it and go, well, why didn't you ask him about this? There was a pandemic, or he broke his leg, that. So a fair point, but, you know, I think that would definitely be an issue there. We're going to move on to the Ryder Cup suggestion. You tee it up there.
Yeah, no, listen, sure, it's the biggest weekend of the year in golfing terms, especially, and it's a really unique event in the sense that golf is probably, outside of maybe snooker, darts, I would say, the most individualistic sport there is. You're totally single-minded. It's all about you. It's not about anyone else. And then all of a sudden, they're thrown into this team environment this weekend and in recent days, where they have to get along with other guys. They have to play 4 balls where they're teaming up with somebody else. And it just kind of got us thinking, obviously, you know, Limerick is a county here where they're all just working by themselves, and they play Clare and they're in opposition. But what would happen if, you know, there was a team Munster and you combine it, kind of like the Railway Cup, going up against, we won't say Team Leinster, we'll say the rest of Ireland. So we're looking at trying to pick the cream of the crop, both on the line and on the pitch, and basically play off for Hurling's Ryder Cup. And
of course, we'll just, without further ado, shall we announce the captains of the two teams?
Yeah, I'll give you the honours in Munster.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to have to announce them at the same time because the game is done. So here it goes. Look at that there.
Excellent.
John Kiley and Brian Cody. Sure, who else could we have as the two captains?
No, in fairness, you have an 11-time All-Ireland winning manager and a guy that's won 3 All-Irelands in 4 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, so are we going to start off with do you want to start off with the Munster team or with the Leinster team?
I'd start off with
the rest of Ireland.
I'd start off with the vice captains, to be honest with you.
Vice captains, okay.
Like, right, in Munster, we obviously have the pick of, we'll just say, like, obviously Liam Sheedy was an inter-county manager. Could you see him working with John Kiley? But for me, Kinnerk has to be with John Kiley.
Okay. Right.
Because like there's one come without the other. Does Kiley come without Kinnerk really in many ways? I think I wouldn't be separating them. And I'd be interested in like how powerful would John Kiley be without Kinnerk's coaching underpinning what he's doing as well. So I'd probably be pushing for Paul Kinnerk to be with him. Like you're basically looking at the Munster dream team against the rest of Ireland dream team.
Okay, well then look, if we're looking across the different counties, I think Liam Sheedy gets a fair vote for getting 2 All-Irelands over 2 terms. So he's in there. Are we looking at Liam Cal? Are we looking at Mikey Beavens?
That's not a bad shout now, in fairness too.
Yeah,
how many coaches do we need?
How many will spoil the broth?
Yeah, it's just like, say, Kinnerk is a coach, he's not a manager. So we have Kiley the manager, Kinnerk the coach. Do we need another manager per se, or like a vice
couldn't
manager?
work together.
Yeah, see, this is the thing, you see. This is the thing. It has to be realistic to guys. Like, that's why I'm saying Paul Kinnerk and John Kiley will definitely work really, really well together. It's just, it's just a matter of maybe fitting somebody else into that as well.
Okay, so let's see. Kieran Kingston, The Rock, Donal O'Grady. Jeez, you could put him in there too, you know.
See, it can't be
Brian
as well.
Lohan.
It can't be too Limerick-centric, because then it looks like, just say if Pádraig Harrington had picked Graham McDowell, Darren Clark, Philip Walton, and Des Smith, and then he picked Shane Lowry, Seamus Power, Rory McIlroy, Mark Power, and a few more Irish guys. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't work like that. So I like would Sheedy be a good one with Kiley?
I'm sure he could work with him. What about Davy?
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting too. There's a lot of talent in there. Andrew makes a good point there when we get to Cody about potentially having Mick Dempsey with him. And I don't necessarily disagree. with that when we get to it. But who do you think the third man would be in Munster?
Damn it, this is tough. I'm even just looking at Clare here in the match programme and seeing the likes of Ken Ralph being mentioned, James Moran, Brian Lohan has obviously turned things around very quickly. It's really tough.
Yeah, no, it is tough. I think Kiley and Kinnerk would work. Obviously, they work really well together.
I think no more than one from any county.
Okay. Fair enough. Then it gets
Mikey Beavens. So Kiley, Mikey Beavens, because of the style he's brought in with Waterford. Working really well. Obviously, probably can't have 2 managers like you said, so that rules out all the managers.
Oh, does it though? Yeah, I'm not sure. It would have to be, if it's going to be another manager, it would have to be someone that would complement the team. Like, it's like anything. You're looking for guys that can do different things within a setup. It's like someone like Donal O'Grady would probably be ideal, wouldn't he? Someone who has that managerial experience. I know Mikey Beavens is a really good coach. Is he getting too much credit here?
So who should get it?
If you're talking about other coaches inside other Munster counties, just trying to think now. Like Eamon O'Shea, Tommy Dunn, Darragh Egan. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like Eamon, like John Kiley, Eamon O'Shea, Donal O'Grady.
But I think Tip should have been doing more in the last couple of years. So that's why I'd be more inclined to go with Beavens, because Waterford have always had the talent and things didn't work out for them for a couple of years. But very quickly they're playing this sort of style and getting an awful lot of success from a team that, between the jigs and the reels, didn't win any games for 2 years.
Can I just say something to you? Paul Kinnerk's obviously from, he is a Limerick man. Sorry, that Clare connection put me off. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
No, okay.
And then Ken Ralph was with Clare as a tip man.
Yeah, but he obviously played for Clare Castle. What are we looking at? Jeez, we could be
John Kiley, Mikey Beavens, Donal O'Grady.
Right, okay, I'll go with that.
Okay, so the management team on the other side, Brian Cody.
Now,
so people make a suggestion he needs modern hurling men with him. Mick Dempsey's a leash man.
Yeah, Mick Dempsey is a leash man. We're obviously pulling Galway into this as well, and we're pulling, all of the northern counties into it as well, and anybody else in Connacht. So, like, there's Micheál Donoghue, the man who has more championship wins over Cody than any other manager need to be in the mix here big time.
And someone who's coaching in a non-Munster county, are they in this conversation? So would Davy have been in it? Does Darren Gleeson get in the conversation?
I don't think so. No, I don't. I think it's where they're from. Like, they're not going to.
Have we wronged Anthony Daly?
He would have raw passion for the Ryder Cup. There's no doubt about that. I personally think Mikey Beavens has done great things already at underage level, but I think there's probably a few candidates ahead of him. But we can't waste too much time on that now, because we haven't even got near the team yet.
Yeah, Pádraig Gill says, how can anyone get excited about the Ryder Cup? No more than the Lions, overhyped nonsense. I would agree on the Lions, all right. But there's something about the Ryder Cup. It does get me as well. It's class. Yeah, Gill says, Grady on defence, Eamon O'Shea attack, Kinnerk on team play, and Kylie manager. But we're only having two vice captains and a
we're sticking with the traditional GA setup. I know there could be 26 in the back room now, but it's your manager and your 2 coaches or 2 selectors.
And it forces us to pick people. You know, if we said 10 backroom team, nobody gets left out. But that's not what this is about. We want to pick people. We want to force each other into a corner.
Who will work best with Cody? Like a very powerful figure.
One?
A very, very powerful figure.
I would have said the opposite. Somebody who's just going to kind of go with the flow. And just accept that he's going to make all the decisions.
Is that why, like, Mick Dempsey would be one of the ideal, because he knows how to work with him and has obviously, like, the majority. What was Dempsey involved with? 06, 07, 08, 09, 11, 12, 14 and 15. He was involved in his last 8 All-Irelands. Like, surely he's the prime candidate to start off anyway.
Yeah, well, if someone gets a better comment in
Cyril Farrell,
yeah, not bad. Yeah, okay.
Cyril has worked with LIT for years under Davy and has no problem working in that kind of background character as well. Absolutely no problem. And if you're talking about raw passion, imagine his raw passion for the Ryder Cup.
Look at as they say. Oh, I'm just trying to see if I can. I think I have a picture here of something that might make a bit of sense. Hold on now.
Imagine someone sinks a putt in the Ryder Cup and all you can hear is Cyril bang back at the cup.
Hold on now, 1 second here. I've a limit here which suggests to me that it does have to be. Look at that. They've worked together before. You can see there's a bit of there's something between them there that they get on well. So it's not the most modern. And when I say modern, I don't mean modern. I mean it's not full of young men here. So Brian Cody, Mick Dempsey, Cyril Farrell. Is there a suggestion here that Munster have the edge already? Is
there a glaring absentee that we're not just thinking of? I'm just trying to think
Matty Kenny, as SSRI says.
Potentially. Cheddar. Oh, yeah. Niall Corcoran was another one that came in. O'Donoghue was another one that came in. Cheddar would be modern, fairly modern now, in fairness, even though he would be of the older generation.
Matty would. I think Matty would work all right with Cody.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, we've taken Kinnerk away from Munster, so maybe we should take Dempsey away from Leinster. Okay,
so we're going Cody, Matty Kenny, and Cyril Farrell.
Yeah, I think that's a nice mix now, I have to say.
Okay.
The reason I'm not picking Micheál Donoghue there is I'm just not sure if Donoghue would complement Cody. So we're trying to be realistic here. Think of a team that would actually work. Matty Kenny's obviously been a coach and a selector with Galway before as well.
Okay, and got them to an All-Ireland final, working against Cody too. Back in those days, won that Leinster title in 2012. Right, to jump straight into the teams, will we start off with the Munster team?
Yeah, Munster team first, yeah.
Okay, in goals, how many Tipperary can I fit in here?
Nicky Quaid is the keeper.
Yeah, Nicky Quaid. Yeah. Well, we're not going to argue too much about that one.
Okay, can we look at a basic template here in the sense of, what Limerick players are certs on this team?
Should we say no more than 4 from any one county?
Oh, Jenny Mac.
By the way, I see a good one here. No mention of Henry Shefflin by Flash.
Yeah, it's just he hasn't worked at inter-county level yet. He's obviously won 2 All-Ireland club titles, which Matty has done as well. But he's worked at the senior intercounty level. In time, Henry, maybe we could bring him in the background so that maybe he could be a future captain, for the next hurling Ryder Cup. We're all thinking about succession planning.
Yeah, you're really good that way. Okay, so Nicky Quaid at number 1.
5. Are we limit at 5 per county?
I'd say 4.
Okay, 4. Okay.
4
We're making
per
it up
county.
on the fly here. 4.
Yeah, we are. But otherwise we'll end up picking too many Limerick lads, which won't suit me.
Okay. Yeah. Who are the? Well, then in that case, we might have to look at the keeper again, because if we're talking about the 4 most important Limerick players that we want to work in my head, I'd be thinking Sean Finn, Keane Lynch, Will O'Donoghue, and maybe Tom Morrissey or Gerard Hegarty.
The Keane Lynch for sure, and Tom Morrissey, yeah. So Quaid, Finn, Lynch, Morrissey, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I if I'm looking at it, I'd probably maybe find another keeper.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a second, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Number 2, Sean Finn. Number 3, who's our fullback?
Conor Prunty.
Okay.
Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other cornerback, Cathal Barrett?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy with that, yeah. I'd probably have Ronan Matter in the half-back line as well.
Man in the number 6 slot?
Don't know if he'd man the number 6 slot. Maybe 7 if we're not picking Kyle Hayes.
Caleb Lyons.
Caleb Lyons 5, maybe.
Yeah.
Jamie Barron midfield.
Yeah, Jamie Barron,
yeah. Tony Kelly somewhere in the forward line.
Should I be doing this up on that tactics board thing?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be a fair team, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fair team now.
Okay, let me just figure this out. You start working a little bit there on the other team.
Yeah, we'll stay going on the Munster team for the moment, and I'll just start jumping around with different lads. Probably if you're looking at Cork, Patrick Horgan would definitely be high in the mix, if not on the team. Seamus Harnedy, probably maybe Tim O'Mahony might come into the reckoning. Rob Downey in defence, Sean O'Donoghue in defence. Those sort of guys would definitely come into the reckoning too. Patrick Collins could be a good option for the goals also. If we're talking about other Waterford players to come into the mix, probably looking at...
Are we after wronging Sean O'Donoghue here?
Yeah, no, I mentioned him, but I think we've got a fair full back line there now. Seasoned full back line. We'll obviously... Do you have to include 3 rookies in this as well?
I've made a bit of ground now in terms of getting the team ready to bring up on the screen. So let's have a look here. How does that look? Does that look all right?
That looks good, yeah.
Yeah, okay, grand. So jumping on from there.
I'd have Ronan Matter half back anyway.
At centre back?
I'd probably have Tyg de Borca centre back if fit, but
you kind of said before about players like this that we haven't seen him in so long. How can we?
Okay, no, that's fair enough. If it's on, we'll just say it's on this weekend, so he can't be fit to play this weekend. Who's our centre back?
Let's look at a couple of the comments flying in here. Geez, they're absolutely flying in. Let me just see here. Bubbles is mentioned. De Borca. Conway has to be in the team from Kerry. Jack O'Connor, Prendergast, De Borca, Kyle Hayes, Caleb Lyons. Well, we're looking to limit counties to a maximum of 4 each. I'm just going to throw Jamie Barron in here while I think of it at midfield.
Throw Keane Lynch centre forward as well.
Okay.
And Tom Morrissey half, yeah. I'd be happy with Tom Morrissey. More than happy with him half.
Okay, let me just get to Keane Lynch there. Throw a few more names at me. I think Jack O'Connor has to get in here somewhere. Would Jack O'Connor
get in ahead of Patrick Horgan?
Well, I'd be thinking there's room for a couple of them.
You know the way, in the Ryder Cup, obviously, we're Europeans, we're Irish, but we're Europeans, and we obviously hate America. For this weekend, would it be fair to say? That Team Munster is Team USA this weekend?
Absolutely not.
And who would be the Patrick Reed of the Munster team?
Who would be hated?
Who would be the one going around fist bumping and just really antagonising people?
Fist pumping.
Brendan Bugler, wing back.
I don't know who loves a fist pump.
He does, in fairness, yeah. He does, in fairness.
Tipperary were known as the fist pump champions there for a while, but I don't know if we've had quite as enough to fist pump about lately.
No, we're looking at Jason Ford in the forward line.
I think we are looking to get him in there. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, so we do want Ronan Maher in there also, and you're saying wing back.
Yeah, but that's on the proviso that we have, a better option at centre back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just throw him in for now.
Yeah.
My typing skills are on full view to the public here.
I have to say, I really want Will O'Donoghue midfield.
Where are we playing forward? Corner forward?
I'd probably play him potentially as a second centre forward at different stages of a game, but we can name him corner forward.
Okay.
We need Tony Kelly, I'd say, on the wing as well.
Oh, yeah, geez. We better get his name in there quick.
What other Clare players are going to come into the mix here too? Like Rory Hayes is probably an option for cornerback. Cottle Malone on form would be an option. Not sure if he'll make the cut, though.
I'm running out of colour schemes here, so I'm not sure what I'll put Clare in as. I'll put him in as a light blue.
Yeah, light blue will do fine, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying Kelly on the wing?
Yeah, I think Kelly on the wing, yeah.
Yeah, wearing an unfamiliar number 10 jersey. I'm sure he won't mind. I'm sure he won't care. Now, Jack O'Connor, are we fitting him in? Any midfield option. Now, what about Dara Fitzgibbon? I'm not saying he had a brilliant All-Ireland final or finish to the season.
Yeah, Dara Fitzgibbon. I would be big on having Will O'Donoghue there and using a different goalkeeper if push came to shove.
So would you throw Patrick Collins in the goal? I
probably would, to be honest, yeah.
We have people commented in here with a few other options.
Yeah.
Barrett, yeah. They're a team of Patrick Reed, says
Bazzaroni.
Milan mentioned as a sideline option that he'd be just for the passion.
Imagine Milan tailor-made for Ryder Cup, isn't he? Tailor-made for it.
Yeah. Niall Fogarty saying change the goalie. Lads, we have to go for the double centre forward. Dermot Ryan, Cathal Malone, Shane O'Donnell. Change the goalie and have Will O'Donoghue midfield. Yeah, Jack O'Connor over Hoggy.
I wouldn't have. I think for Hoggy's experience, in a hurling Ryder Cup, I think it'd be huge. I have to say.
Okay, but so my dropping Jack O'Connor, I don't see how you could drop Jack O'Connor here.
Just based on the one season.
No, he's been there for 3 or 4 seasons.
I know, but he's really only delivered this season.
Yeah. Okay. I know he's just got such speed and talent. I mean, there's nobody in that rest of Ireland team that'd be able for it.
Fair enough, but you could potentially say the same about Tony Kelly and the same about Cian Lynch.
But if you have Jason Ford and Patrick Horgan on the one inside line, where's your pace? They're both brilliant hurlers, and if you play the right ball in...
Okay, well we're only going to play 2 inside. If you had Jack O'Connor then maybe, and someone with a bit more bulk inside then as well.
Seamus Flanagan.
I'd be pushing more for Will O'Donoghue midfield and Patrick Collins in goals to get us that extra Limerick fella.
Say that again.
I would be pushing for O'Donoghue midfield and have you switched Patrick Collins into the goals?
I haven't thrown him into the goals yet. I can do that now.
Okay.
I'd suggest, do you know what? If you were giving me a straight up pick between the two, I'd nearly look for Declan Hannon as the centre back ahead of Will O'Donoghue midfield.
Okay. What are the other options?
For which position you talk about?
For centre back.
Well, Ronan Maher, like you said,
hasn't really played there much with Tip in the last couple of years. He's been more cornerback, fullback, wingback. There are a dart of centre backs, aren't they? Outside of De Borca, the proviso for De Borca not being in this team is he's not fit to play at the moment.
Yeah, Niall Heffernan says the same. If we backed ourselves into a corner, Sylvia M asks how many players in each panel. You'll need subs to include deserving players. See, this is the thing, Sylvia. We pick it. We have to back a horse because otherwise, if you're trying to please everyone. And there's more crack when you just pick one lad over another and try and justify it. But we'll have 4 from each panel. Mark Coleman's been mentioned here.
Yeah, for the centre-back, I don't disagree with you, Hannon. You have a massive leader there as well. The most successful captain in living memory. We could probably, slip Dara Fitzgibbon into midfield, maybe. Someone like that. Yeah,
a bit of pace there to go along. You could argue that he didn't have his greatest season, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he deserves to be in this team at this moment in time.
So Right, we have a full forward spot and we have a midfield spot. And do you still want to push Patrick Horgan in there?
It's either him or Jack O'Connor, realistically.
Yeah. Will I throw Seamus Callanan's name in there?
I wouldn't on current form.
Yeah, just because. Well, then that's all the more reason we couldn't have Tadhg de Burke in there on current form. We don't know. Luke Meade.
I don't think. Not based on the one season.
Okay, so who are we missing out there? Is there anyone else from Clare that we should be mentioning? Get your comments in there. I'm wondering, like Shane O'Donnell, of course, he missed an awful lot of the season due to injury. Aidan McCarthy's a really good player. He's someone that we could probably have been mentioning before now. I'm trying to think who else in Waterford. Austin Gleeson. My God almighty, I'm just going to type him in there. Michael will be back in a second there. I'm just going to throw it in, and then when Michael comes back on, he'll be wondering, how did we think of that? We're actually a disgrace. His name in there, caps lock all wrong, of course. Now, is he back on? I can't believe I didn't think of it. Look at who I threw in full forward.
Shane, I was just going to say to you, I had a call there from Ozzy Gleeson wondering why he reckons he could be the Ian Poulter of the Hurling Ryder Cup.
Well, what were we doing not even thinking of his name for a couple of minutes there? I'm happy to have Austin Gleeson in, are you?
Yeah, you see, the thing is there with that, you could potentially play Jason Ford inside with O'Connor. You could potentially play Gleeson inside with O'Connor. You could move Ford out as a second centre forward. Just going to go through that really quickly. Patrick Collins, Sean Finn, Conor Prunty, Cathal Barrett, Caleb Lyons, Declan Hannon, Ronan Maher, Jamie Barron. We're missing one midfield colleague. Tony Kelly, Keane Lynch, Tom Morrissey, Jason Ford, Austin Gleeson, Jack O'Connor. Yeah, that's a pretty good side. Just need a midfield partner for Jamie Barron. I'm always reluctant, Shane, to put like two speedy fellas together in midfield. Not to say yeah, maybe. Someone I think that's the sort of player. Galvin. Yeah, Colin Galvin. I don't know based on this year's form, on overall form, probably. Is there that sort of I know I was saying Austin Gleeson, the Ian Poulter type player, but is there that sort of player that like may not have lit it up in recent years, but if you fancied him to do a job on a given day, he could come in?
Noel McGrath?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Shane. No, I'm not. I think Noel McGrath's form of 2019, he'd be here all right, but the form of the last 2 years, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I don't think he's guaranteed to be on the Tipperary team next year, in my opinion. Do you know?
Yeah, that's probably a fair point. I've just been told there to make Prunty's white. Fair point. That would actually allow me to make the dark blue one for Tony Kelly. But look, I've gone too far into it. Have we made a decision? So we're not really looking at a Tipperary man. I think Alan Flynn's done all right in the last couple of years, but I'm not quite sure. Dan McCormack?
Dan McCormack wouldn't be far out of conversation for me now, I have to say.
He's been used as a man marker in the last couple of years, so it's not even necessarily playing that role. I have Paddy Cadell being mentioned here, probably needs a bit more game time. Mikey Breen, great shouts as pure hatchet. Kelly midfield, Ford to the wing, and Hoggy inside. All Ireland finalists Cork only have 3 and Tip have 2 and Tip have 3. But to be fair, a lot of it is down to the fact that did Cork beat heavy hitters on the way to the final?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. Shane, I wouldn't have any issue with Dan McCormack midfield, if I'm honest.
Down home with me.
Well, you need a guy that's going to complement Barron. I think Barron would flourish beside him. You need a Dan McCormack, a Cathal Malone, a Will O'Donoghue. That's the type of player you need, in my opinion, anyway. Okay,
so there's the team lined up there. That's not bad at all. Just to run through it again once more. In goals, Patrick Collins. Will you kind of note how many of each county are there?
Yeah.
In goals, Patrick Collins, Sean Finn, Conor Prunty, Cathal Barrett, Caleb Lyons, Declan Hannon, Ronan Maher, Dan McCormack and Jamie Barron, Tony Kelly, Keane Lynch, Tom Morrissey, Jason Ford, Austin Gleeson, Jack O'Connor.
We have 4 Limerick, 4 Waterford, 4 Tip, 2 Cork, 1 Clare.
Now, have we wronged any county here, or have we overly complimented?
We've probably overly complimented Tip, being honest.
I don't like hearing that sort of thing. Why? Who should we drop?
Well, like Cathal Malone, based on the last 2 years' form, probably deserves to be in midfield over Dan McCormack. You know, if we're balancing it out a bit more.
Okay, so do you want to make that change?
Yeah, I'll make that change. I'll put my head up there because I know you're not going to because you're a club mate of his.
Okay, let's see. Cathal Malone. Okay, do you know what? You can see we're trying to do the right thing here, balance it out. Clare were very good last year.
Yeah.
So that's the Munster team. Now to the other side of things. Now it gets tasty altogether.
Yeah.
So do you want to start us out?
Well, Owen Murphy is the obvious starting point, isn't he? Unless, like, who are our 4 Kilkenny players going to be? That's the way I'd put it to you. Probably be Owen Murphy, Pádraig Walsh, TJ Reid, and Owen Cody, I would say. That's off the top of my head.
Just for simplicity for everyone when they're looking at this, because there's going to be any amount of colours on the screen, I'm going to put all the Munster team a little bit further up. This will probably be a bit of a mess no matter what I do, but I'm going to try and just keep all the Munster lads in a line like that and do the same with the rest of Ireland lads and see how it goes.
Fair point, yeah. Fair point.
Yeah.
Like Owen Murphy is an obvious starting point. It's just that if we're limiting ourselves to four, like there's probably, not to say that there's less quality, but there's probably going to be less choice now within the rest of Ireland team. If we're only, because you're really looking at Kilkenny, you're really looking at Galway.
I'm going to throw in Pádraig Walsh before we go any further.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Owen Murphy, Pádraig Walsh, TJ Reid, and Owen Cody would be my 4th Kilkenny player, I'd have to say.
Where would you play TJ?
I'd rest him for the weekend. I'd keep him for the last day.
Do you want to play him centre or full?
I'd probably play him at centre with 2 very speedy players either side of him.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that now.
I was looking at the Ballyhale game against Tullaroan, and I think Owen Cody could be a monster over the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, he's looking that way.
I think he could be an absolute monster. Physically, he's getting more and more imposing all the time. I
want to get Kevin Foley in here.
Yeah, okay. Can we look at Galway first?
Oh, we can.
Like you're looking at Dahi Burke.
Dahi Burke fullback.
Yeah, Dahi Burke fullback. You have the 2 Manions, Conor Whelan, Brian Kincannon. Tell you, we're going to have a tasty rest of Ireland team. I can tell you that.
We definitely are. The thing we're going to have to do here is make sure that we don't underservice teams up in all. Well, look, who from Antrim can get in this team? Can anyone from Antrim get into this team?
Just a quick one on that, Shane. And I know one of the viewers mentioned about Shane Conway. Shane Conway is a brilliant hurler. Just very hard when you haven't seen him at that level. It's very hard to put him into that team. It would be like he could take to it like a duck to water. He probably would, but we don't know because he's only been playing at Joe McDonagh level and Division 2A level. So that's probably the reason why he was omitted from the Munster team.
Yeah, I see. There's plenty of comments flying in here. Hannon over Kyle Hayes and Will O'Donoghue is troubling. Well, look, it's all opinions. Lee Chin at centre forward, Cathal Malone midfield, TJ at 12, the 2 Manions. Keelan Malloy's mentioned. He's obviously an Antrim hurler.
Yeah.
And like who from Antrim would you be looking to get into this team?
James McNaughton, Neil McManus, Keelan Malloy would probably be the ones that would be to the forefront of my head anyway. Yeah,
they're probably the ones that would stand out for me also, I have to say. There are good hurlers across the team. I just, like even the forwards, there's lots of lads who can score there, but I'm not quite sure. Like Gerard Walsh is a really good fullback, but we'd definitely be picking Dahi Burke ahead of him. And I really do rate Gerard Walsh. Can we just put Conor Whelan at the edge of the square or something to start? Just because I just want to, when you have a clear focus of, these are the guys you're essentially building your team around. Like Conor Whelan's an absolute lock, isn't he? He is, yeah. Actually, look, you know my thoughts on Conor Whelan. We went through those in the last couple of weeks. And are we looking at Cathal Mannion in here?
Yeah, would you be playing in midfield?
No. I'm not sure who else we're going to be mentioning just yet. Because I'm wondering, does Paddy Purcell fit in this team somewhere?
Oh, I think he's a great shout. The only thing on the goalkeeper thing as well, does Enda Rowland come into the conversation in the goals to potentially release another Kilkenny outfield player?
Okay, well, we'll have to come back to that one in a while. We just
do we patch up Richie Hogan and start him?
I don't think so, because he got such little game time. If we could have Richie Hogan fully fit,
he only needs to perform on this weekend. That's all.
Do you know who we haven't thought of yet? Owen O'Donnell.
Oh, okay.
No, I wouldn't be against putting him in cornerback.
I'd have absolutely no issue with putting him in cornerback.
Okay,
None whatsoever. None.
Oh no, Donald. Now, I obviously should have the Dublin as the sky blue and Clare as the darker blue. But look, I'm too far invested at this point, so I'm not going to bother changing it around. Danny Sutcliffe, does he get in here?
I'm not sure. We're going to have to see who we'd be coming up against. Danny Sutcliffe, Donald Burke.
Yeah. You see, we've TJ on the freeze, so that's looked after already.
Yeah, and we were very good on the Munster side of things. We had Tony Kelly as one free taker, Jason Ford as another. Like, we're not carrying 6 free takers. That's not the way it works. Like, this isn't like a long drive contest. We need people that are going to be able to do several different things.
Do you want Pádraig Mannion in the team?
I probably want the 2 Mannions, Shane, being realistic.
Well, then that's Galway completely done then.
I'm just thinking of, like, Brian Concannon is probably the one that's maybe harshly missed out, but he did have a poor championship this year.
Well, Pádraig Mannion didn't light it up the way he did in the past either.
That's true too. But
yeah,
there's proven form there down through the years. Do you know what I mean?
So will I put in the 2 Mannion? So
yeah, I'd have no problem potentially moving Carl Mannion to midfield, but we'll see in a second.
Yeah, I'd be looking. Where would you be looking to play Kevin Foley? When I was watching him play for Rapparees the other day, I was thinking, yeah, this guy could be a very good creative wing back next year for Wexford.
Yeah, wing back midfield would be the 2 spots. And I think he could do an awful lot of damage wing back. We were chatting about that on Monday. Conor McCann and Kieran Clark were 2 others that you would definitely mention from Antrim. I see some of our viewers there did as well.
Yeah, Paddy Purcell's been mentioned a lot. Killian Doyle, Rory O'Connor is a cert. I mean, he probably is actually.
Tommy Doyle's not too far off from Westmeath either now.
No, he's not.
A jogger.
Where are we going to play Kevin Foley? Midfield?
Are we definitely playing Kevin Foley?
I think Kevin Foley has to be in here. I think he's probably one of the most natural hurlers of the lot.
Can I say something to you though? How much of a risk is it to play him somewhere that's going to be alien to him? If we're not playing him sweeper where he's played for the last 3 seasons, are we taking a big punt on him?
Well, like Declan Hannon's a bit of a de facto sweeper.
I know, Shane, but like we're not playing Kevin Foley as a sweeper on this team, are we?
No, we're not.
So I think that's a punt.
But if you played him wing forward with a license to roam, he could do untold. Hey, will I throw in Leach in here before we do too much more mouthing?
I think you have to. Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah, will I put him in right wing forward?
Yeah, just we could have some ball winning half hour line.
Look, there's no shortage of him in there. And now it's getting tasty. So Paddy Purcell all of a sudden feels like he's getting squeezed out.
Where are you playing Paddy Purcell? I have no issue with playing him midfield. It's one of his. He's as effective midfield as he is wing forward.
I'd be happy to put him midfield. Yeah.
Are we looking at Rory O'Connor corner forward, drifting out? We
could. So will I throw in Paddy Purcell here?
I'd put Paddy Purcell midfield. Yeah.
Okay.
And imagine, like, the thing is as well, I know I mentioned it, Shane Conway, but someone like Paddy Purcell, he has delivered at Liam McCarthy level. He could thrive in a team like this. He could absolutely excel in a team like this. Okay,
that's a good shout. I'm sure not everyone agrees with that, but we'll go with it. Lads, it has to be Rory O'Connor, no question.
I think so. I think if he's getting good service, and I think a different game plan might suit as well. Cody's going to go direct, lads. Cody is going to go direct.
Rory O'Connor.
Yeah.
Okay, Rory he's O'Connor. In corner forward. And
who are we doing that? Are we doing a disservice to any counties? We'll say Matt O'Hanlon's not in the defence at the moment. He probably deserves to be in the conversation. Kevin Foley, Paulie Foley would probably be in the conversation if he'd been involved at Wexford last year. My own club, my own cattle would come into the conversation, but awfully are too far down the pecking order, unfortunately. Anyone else in Leash, Enda Rowland for the goals, maybe Paddy Purcell, maybe Ross King up top. Donica Hartnett would be a very sticky cornerback to have, but I think he'll fall a bit behind some of what we have here. Donald Burke, Danny Sutcliffe for the Dubs. Probably, I'd have no issue with moving Cathal Mannion out to midfield and playing Donald Burke half forward.
I'd be more inclined to play Danny Sutcliffe if you were going to pick one of the Dublin lads, because he had that return to form this year.
Okay.
Like I see some people saying I'd leave Bazzaroni saying I'd leave Murphy off to get another Kilkenny defender in.
Are there do that many Kilkenny defenders jump off the table at you, though?
Well, the ones I look at when I'm looking at the programme here, like Tommy Walsh, Paddy Deegan, Conor Brown, James Maher obviously came in and did a good job this year. Michael Kerry is someone who looks like he has a lot of talent. I'm not quite sure. I don't think so. And Murphy's such a good goalkeeper. You could argue that he's one of their best. Like, he is one of Kilkenny's best players.
Yeah, I'd be happy with Murphy here. I'd be happy, and based on the Munster forward line, we're probably going to have a keeper that's going to be fairly busy. So you think he's the best man for the job?
So we're missing a midfielder and a cornerback and a wing back.
Cornerback and a wing back. Okay. I personally do think Kevin Foley is a punt at wing back. It could work, but I do think it's a punt. You're essentially playing him somewhere he's never played at inter-county level. Yeah.
Well, what counties are we leaving out here? Is there any player in Westmeath we're wrong in? Is there any player in like Laois? Like, they have a big solid half backline, but I'm not sure any would fit quite into this.
Can I just say, if we did put Tommy Doyle cornerback, we would probably have one of the most physically imposing full backlines of all time. Owen O'Donnell, who is just an absolute horse. Dahi Burke, I don't know how you describe him. And then Tommy Doyle, who's about 6'5".
He played centre back this year.
Played full back all his career up until that. It might be a stretch to put him cornerback now. Could I
have a word about Keane O'Callaghan, maybe Paddy Smith?
Both definitely deserve to be in the conversation anyway. Paddy Smith in particular had a great year this year, and deserves an All-Star nomination in my view. Hugh Lawler obviously will come into the mix too, but can't have Hugh Lawler over Dahi Burke or Owen O'Donnell anyway. And I wouldn't be playing Hugh Lawler cornerback. Just thinking if there's someone like Matt O'Hanlon's an out-and-out half-back or an out-and-out centre-back. Do you know what I mean? Like, he could play. I'd have absolutely no issue with playing him wing-back. And obviously a massive leader as well. Was joint captain when they won the Leinster 2 years ago.
Matt O'Hanlon.
Yeah.
So you throw him in as a man marker, maybe? Like, there's a good comment here from Pure Hatchet. Just because there's no definite for corner, wing back, and midfield for the rest of Ireland shows that the Munster team would dominate.
I don't know. I think the options are greater for Munster. I think this is going to end up as a very strong team, I have to say.
Yeah. So you want to get would you be looking Matt O'Hanlon wing back then rather than corner?
I would be. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be happy with him cornerback.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we doing Liam Ryan a disservice here, big time actually?
Well, he could be in the other corner because, like, the full backs, but then we haven't picked a de facto cornerback or a natural cornerback.
Yeah, but with the way the game is now, like, fullbacks have to be able to play cornerback now.
Yeah, it is kind of. But, like, do we have a travelling cornerback there? So, you know the way it's normally two back inside.
Good point. Liam Ryan is probably a bit hard done by. We have a lot of options for fullback, but not that many for cornerback.
And again, are we doing him a disservice? Well, this is where Keane O'Callaghan and Paddy Smith come back up again.
Yeah, Jesus, I think it'd be a stretch to put either of them in ahead of Liam Ryan, even if they are out and out cornerbacks.
Where are the Offaly players?
Come on, I am a bit more realistic than you with your tip hat on. I appreciate that. We're only back in Division 1 next year, and we're still in Joe McDonough next year as well. So it would be a bit of a stretch at the moment. Yeah,
I think Liam Ryan is probably the only one of the Wexford lads that I'd be considering for that full back line. So if you're going to have anyone, and I think he can do the job. He can play anywhere back there, and if you want him even dragged out a bit, I think he can do that too.
Yeah, I'd have no problem with Owen O'Donnell being that floating man, and he's played centre back before, marking the likes of TJ, and he's played. He marked Horgan last year, centre back as a floating defender.
I think he might have.
Yeah, I'd have no issue with him following at all, especially when you have two powerhouses behind. Yeah, I'd have no issue with that. I think Liam Ryan cornerback I'd be more than happy with that. I couldn't get over when I was standing beside him on the pitch the other day in Wexford. He's an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's
huge.
He is absolutely colossal. And what midfielder then are we missing out on?
Yeah, to be honest,
I see Dara Egerton being mentioned there. He was brilliant in the Joe McDonagh final here.
Very good.
SSRI brings him up. He was very, very good, no doubt, in that game.
I'd be moving Cathal Mannion out midfield, and I'd be putting probably one of the Dubs a half forward, I have to say.
What about one of the left-handers for Westmeath? Angus Clark, for example.
Yeah, very good player too. Killian Doyle's not left-handed; he's left-sided, isn't he? I don't think they're going to miss out here now, I have to say. I do think they're going to miss out here. Is there anyone else we're forgetting? Keith Higgins?
No.
Is there anybody else from the other counties that were, just let me think, Derry,
Keelan Roy from midfield.
Yeah, but I do think one of Donald Burke or Danny Sutcliffe should be on the team. Personally, I'd have no issue with going with Donald Burke centre forward and TJ Wing forward.
I'd be more inclined to go with Danny Sutcliffe on the wing and who were you saying midfielder? Cathal Mannion.
Cathal Mannion.
Would you be on for that?
Yeah, I'd be on for that, yeah.
Okay, let me just give me a second to do all my jiggery pokery there and get that going again. I have to find the number 8 in here because you know how particular we are. We have to get these things looking just right. And who do we say? Danny Sutcliffe.
Danny Sutcliffe, yeah.
So
fairness, coming in a rich vein of form. Best season he's had since 2013.
And we like to reward lads.
We do, in fairness. Yeah, we do, in fairness.
We're known for our fairness. Right, there we go. So I'll read out the team and can you count out the amount of, for each county. And then sort of trying to put each team in straight lines here so it's somewhat easier to follow because it's a little bit of a mess at this stage. Right, the rest of Ireland team, and also a breakdown by province. Owen Murphy, Liam Ryan, Dahi Burke, Owen O'Donnell, half-back line of Pádraig Mannion, Pádraig Walsh, Matt O'Hanlon, midfield of Paddy Purcell and Cathal Mannion, then a half-forward line of Lee Chin, TJ Reid and Danny Sutcliffe with a full forward line finishing it out, and you've got Rory O'Connor, Conor Whelan and Owen Cody. And of course, I'd end up putting 2 number 15s. I'm going to change that over because I'm so OCD about everything.
That's a fair outfit. Don't care. We've got 4 Kilkenny. We have 4 Galway, 4 Wexford, 2 Dublin, and 1 bogey that I can't think of who the last one is. There's one from just one county, but I can't see it offhand. 1 from Laois, Paddy Purcell from Laois. So we have 11 Leinster and 4 Connacht. The 4 Connacht being Galway. So
we didn't fit in anyone from Ulster?
No, we didn't. We didn't, in fairness.
I would have felt Keelan Malloy and James McNaughton were closest. Neil McManus, obviously, traditionally, over the years, he'd certainly be in that conversation too. A very good hurler. Other people saying D. O'Keefe could have been mentioned. That was Patrick Whitty. Shane Dooley been mentioned by Fergus Butler. I'm not sure, is he starting with Offaly these days, is he?
No, not at the moment. D. O'Keefe is probably a bit hard done by there. In hindsight, in fairness, he's we've put in Matt O'Hanlon's not an all-star and he's on the team. We've put in several. D. O'Keefe is an all-star midfielder. Yeah, and we see here from PH12, Donald Burke's form is a good bit ahead of Sutcliffe for the last 2 years. I think he has been really good, but I can't say I'd agree with that. So I'll just bring the team up again. The ball winners we have in the half-forward line. Yeah, and Pure Hatchet says Munster team is absolutely filthy. Half-forward line alone would outscore the entire rest of Ireland team. Lads, it would be a massacre. Would it be a massacre here? I don't think it'd be a massacre, to be honest with you. I don't think so. I think it'd be a great game. Look at some of those matchups there. Cathal Barrett against Rory O'Connor, Prunty against Whelan, Sean Finn against Owen Cody. I would love to see that matchup. Yeah. And I feel we've been denied that matchup. Caleb Lyons against Danny Sutcliffe, two fair horses running around. Declan Hannon against TJ. Yeah, I'd like to see that. Ronan Maher against Chin. Throw a few high balls up between them. Cathal Malone and Jamie Barron against Purcell and Mannion. A lot of hurlers in there. Cathal Malone would probably be the one enforcer. Pádraig Mannion against Morrissey, that's nice. Pádraig Walsh, Keane Lynch, that would be all these Kilkenny versus Limerick matchups are ones that intrigue me. Matt O'Hanlon against Tony Kelly, we saw that last year, so you'd have to rejig. That matchup doesn't really work. Kelly had a great game. Liam Ryan against Jack O'Connor, Ozzie Gleeson against Dahi Burke, and Owen O'Donnell against Jason Ford. That is mouthwatering, isn't it? Don't see how that'd be a massacre now. I honestly don't. I don't see how that'd be a massacre. I think it'd be highly intriguing. It would be. I would. You're going to favour Munster, so you know you are. Regardless, it's pure. like it's pure heart over head. It's always going to be.
But look, a forward line with Tony Kelly, right? So when we've rated the best hurlers in Ireland, haven't we had Tony Kelly and Keane Lynch number 1 and number 2 for the last 5?
No, we have. Yeah.
We have Sean Finn 3, Tom Morrissey up around 4. You know, come on. There's too many Munster big hitters here.
I really like the sum of my parts team here. I think this Leinster team is going to be all heart as well.
Yeah, but look, there's too much Tipperary class in the Munster team. It can't be denied. Right, so you're giving a vote. You think Leinster would win? Obviously, I think Munster would win.
Oh, and it's the venue is crucial as well. Like where it's going to be played is crucial because like Croke Park is obviously in Leinster. I don't want to play it in Croke Park. I'm going to nominate. This game is going to be played in Parnell Park. Advantage Team Leinster.
You think that somehow you have the stuff for us abroad over there in Parnell Park?
I think this would be great. Play this game 3 times. Once in Parnell, once in Croke Park, and the other in Tom Semple's field.
In the good field, yeah. Look, I think we're gonna give you an awful lot of it. I think Kylie Beavens and O'Grady will get the best out of us, and I think eventually it'll all start out great, but I think Cody Kenny and Cyril Farrell are just going to be fighting like cats and dogs on the side. Okay, we see Bassaroni say played it in Nolan.
We should have brought Gerlach Nan into the mix in the Munster team as well, just for that kind of divisiveness as well.
Yeah.
We should have put Gerlach Nan and Davy on the one Munster or the one team Munster backroom team.
You are looking for rows there, aren't you?
Big time.
Hey, look, we'll just do a quick one here and we'll fly on through things. Who is the best number 8 in GAA at the moment? By the way, that's our teams and let us know what you think. But who's the best number 8 in GAA in history? Now, I threw it out to some of the viewers the other day and I'll just bring it up on screen here. There weren't actually that many replies. There have been more replies than some of the other numbers that I've thrown out in the last while. I'd say the first thing that came to mind for me was Tommy Dunn.
Okay.
Like obviously, people would say it straight away. Mickey Quinn of Leitrim, he's mentioned here.
Love that Leitrim jersey as well, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's classy stuff. City recovery. Class. You see Kieran Carey mentioned. People think of him of 6, of course, but he did wear 8. Jack O'Shea, Johnny Pilkington, Brian Fenton, and he's still not finished. Tommy Dunn is mentioned up there by David O'Neill. Who's your top number 8?
Johnny Pilkington would be the one that jumps off the page for me straight away. Because apart from the last year or 2 of his off-field career, he only wore number 8 from what I can remember anyway. Did John Fenton wear 8 for Cork?
Yeah.
He would definitely be another one, and like obviously scored one of the most iconic goals in history and set up one of the most iconic goals. Isn't it an awful pity that the camera wasn't able to catch Jimmy Barry's flick from that low ball in from John Fenton? Because to me, that's the greatest goal ever scored. Like the ball is flying in and he gives it a flick and changes the direction of the ball and, you know, just knocks it out of the park. Sylvia M with Richie Bennis at 8. That's a very good one as well. But yeah, Brian Fenton as a modern day player, I don't think he's ever worn any number other than 8. You know the way there's so much messing with numbers now and numbers generally don't matter. But he's worn 8 in every game I can remember for Dublin. I can't remember him wearing any other number.
Yeah, I couldn't picture him without it. I'm going to go with Tommy Dunn and Jack O'Shea.
Oh, very good. I'm going to go football. I'm going to go with Johnny Pilkington and Brian Fenton.
Not bad. Keep your comments coming in and let us know.
Little cultural differences there, I'd say. Johnny and Brian Fenton now might have different opinions on things on a night out or maybe something like that, I'd say, or how they recover between matches or their lifestyles.
Yeah, I've no doubt about that. We'll jump on to the Tipperary Club Championship, which is on this weekend. There's lots of great club stuff coming. But in Tipperary, there are a couple of do-or-die games here. One with my hometown Burrislee up against Nina Éire Óg. So Burrislee started out with a very heavy win over Rossgrey, but then lost to Killerwan the next day out. Both teams lost a man each before half-time, and ultimately Killerwan got the job done there. Nina Éire Óg started out and lost to Killerwan the first day out. Then they beat Rossgrey, but only beat them by 2 points. So going into the final round of games, Killerwan, they're already through. Rossgrey, they're already going to be in a relegation battle. But Burrislee versus Nina, it's on Semple Stadium on Sunday. It's on TG Cahir. That is a big winner-takes-all game.
Massive. Would it be fair to say by looking at the table here with Borrisley's positive scoring difference that a draw will get Boris through here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really interesting game. Obviously, the All Ireland club finalists from was it, is that 2020 that they were in the All Ireland club final? Yeah, it's mad to even think that. And then
last you have knocked out by Drum and Inch on penalties, if people remember that correctly.
Then you have a Nina side who are very, very hit and miss at times, but when they're hit, they can basically take out anyone. When they're poor, they can be very poor. As they obviously were poor enough against Rossgrey. But it's the sort of game that looks set up for Nina to deliver something big when they're not, necessarily really expected, but probably still be favouring Borrisley marginally just because they've generally been a lot more consistent over the last 2 to 3 years than Nina have. Nina when they turn it on, they're brilliant. When the tap is cold, it's very cold.
Yeah, I mean, Nina, when I was a young lad, obviously growing up and going to McDonough Park and North Championship matches, when that was the be all and end all, really, Nina would have been sickeners on occasions. The big towny team and all that, but they haven't won a county title since 1995, which most people can't really explain. And I see
who was their manager in '95?
Oh, I can't remember. But
Padjo Whelan.
Was it?
Yeah. Padjo has county titles with Nina and Tumivara, as well as all the ones county and Leinsters and All Ireland's with Bor. It's nuts.
Yeah, and that will tell you. I mean, Toom were so dominant and had gotten to an All Ireland club final the year before, one that they probably should have won against Sarsfields, and then Nina go and win that back then. But anyway, Brian Horgan is over them now. He was my coach for a year there with Kula, and it'll be interesting to see what he's added this year, because at this stage of the season, it's probably a little bit too soon to tell exactly what the situation is. But Nina, they are suited to Semple Stadium. Last year, they came up short in the county semi-final, but they did knock out Thurles in the quarter-final. I think it was the quarter-final. And Jake Morris had a hat-trick scored early doors. And what a class act he is, and what a tough job it's going to be for one of the Burris defenders. My guess would be Ray McCormick might go on him. Is Dan McCormick going to be fit? He took a blow and had to go off the last day. Tommy Ryan Foot, that nickname that I love. Tommy Toe, as he was referred to when he was a child, because his father is John Ryan Foot. Who's going to come in for him? Then Brendan Maher was a little bit quiet the last day out against Killerwan. He'd be looking to get into the game a little bit more. Eddie Ryan is this new name now coming through for Borrisley. Beautiful striker of a ball, very steady free taker. And then will James Devaney, will he produce a bit more than the last day? He got a goal, but otherwise quiet. And Conor Kenny scored 4 or 5 from play in the second half. He was class. But Burris need to put it together for 60 minutes, because the last day out, missed 2 goal chances early on, gave Killerwan a bit of give him a bit of encouragement, I suppose, for missing chances, and Killerwan raced into an 11 points to 3 lead. Whereas Nina, Dara Quinn has been an injury issue lately. You might remember him on the tip panel there for a while. I think he was actually playing full back, but he came off early with a rib injury. Barry Heffernan will be the main man in the defence, and then there's the Heffernans in the forward line. So you can actually see why TG Carr went for this game, can't you?
No, it's a very, very good game. It looks like a very, very good game on paper. Games are generally quite open in Thurles as well, so you'd imagine this is going to be a rip-roaring, high-scoring game. Probably just be favouring Boris, but definitely looks like one of the games of the weekend. Particularly, it's not a semi-final or a county final, but there's so much on the line here.
Yeah, that's what you want, and that's why people are happy to move, to sort of marginalise to some degree the divisional championship. Some people are very upset by that, and you can understand that too, because everyone wants an opportunity to win their competition and not just go down the grades and not feel like they can compete against the best teams. But anyway, that's the point on that. The other winner takes all game, there are a few, and a couple of the groups are very, very good. But JK Brackens against Lockmore, that's Friday night at Semple Stadium. That's another bit of a winner takes all. Killadangan are guaranteed to go through. McCarthy Burris, they're at the bottom of the group and guaranteed to be in relegation trouble. But Lockmore against Brackens. Seeing the McGraths there, Eamon Corcoran, he's over JK Brackens. We had 4 sidelines been thrown over the last day for JK Brackens. It should be a good game. Like Lyndon Fairbrother, you might remember him for the Tip Miners a few years ago. Shane Burke's still playing, and obviously Paddy Cadell.
Sure, they're right on top of each other as well. Sure, all the McGraths, all Lockmore, they would have all went to school in Our Ladies in Templemore, and there would have been guys there. Lyndon Fairbrother's team, did they win a Harty or an All Ireland a couple of years ago? It might have been actually a year after him, but there would have been loads of Lockmore lads on that team as well. All the McGraths would have went to school in Templemore, so that's going to be an interesting game. And the Brackens have consistently improved in the last couple of years. They were very, very steady last year, and now it looks like they're ready to kick on and try and take a scalp. And if they were to knock out Lockmore, that'd be a huge scalp.
Yeah, they drew with Kildangan in the group stages last year before Kildangan went on to finally win their first county title. And then they only lost to them by, I think, 2 points a few weeks ago. So they're
no sign of Colin O'Riordan being home or anything like that, or slipping in wing back or midfield or anything like that.
Wouldn't it be great to have him? But actually, funnily enough, these are two dual clubs that are up against each other. So there is that emphasis on keeping the ball and working it around the place. Be interested to hear other people out there talk about dual clubs where, especially in the hurling side of things, they wouldn't necessarily just be letting the ball do the work all the time, that there would be a big influence in how they play their hurling.
Yeah, Lockmore would have had the same manager for hurling and football for a good while. I presume that's still the case now. Very full on for that manager over that period of time. There's literally no break, and they would often mix the codes at training. But it is tough. Like, I know when both of them are going well, you can say, oh, but sure, that one complements the other, but it is taxing. Like, it's the same group of bodies playing championship games week on week, and that's not simple at all.
Absolutely not. The Antrim semi-finals are on this weekend. Cushendall, they'll meet O'Donovan Rossa. Dunloy are up against St. John's. And just to give a bit of background on this, I think last year was the first time in a decade that Cushendall weren't actually in there. I mean, they've been such perennial contenders. We've been talking about Neil McManus already today. He's a key man in that team. He generally delivers. Paddy Burke, we've seen him centre back for the county this year, important player. Aaron Graffin also. So they're looking to kick back after a relatively poor 2020 by their standards. Ross, a very fit, athletic team looking to build on last year. Then Dunloy against St. John's. Like, St. John's have been knocking on the door for a long time. Can't get past the semis. They've lots of county lads. Donal Nugent, the Johnson brothers, Shay Shannon. You might remember him scoring a goal against Wexford in the league. Whereas Dunloy, they beat St. John's handy in the group stages in the last 2 years. But, Dunloy, some of the players they have, like Conal Cunning, we mentioned Keelan Malloy, Elliott, Chrissy McMahon, like, they're a very, very good team, aren't they?
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, John's Belfast, isn't it? They've made massive strides in recent years, but they're coming up against, one of the great club sides up in Antrim and even up north as well. We would have great battles. We played Dunloy as recently as the 2008 All Ireland Club semi-final. They haven't been back to those kind of stages since, but they're never going to be far off. Are they the semi-finals, Shane? Yeah,
they're the semi-finals. Yeah.
What happened, Lockeel?
I actually can't remember the results because
that's a big one. They were county champions, not last year, but definitely the year before. So a big gun has already fallen. Just can you get that comment back up from one of our viewers about Colin O'Riordan?
Yeah.
But he does play. He's Calais, but he plays he plays football with the Brackens, doesn't he?
I'm trying to remember, and CK Streeman might be able to clarify on the match programme last year for the Munster final against Cork. I think he was down as Calais rather than Brackens, but maybe CK Streeman might remember that. But these sort of issues that can happen between clubs. We won't go into it anyway, but maybe CK Streeman might be able to clarify on that one. In Waterford this weekend, we're also looking at the semi-finals. Dungarvan are against Rowan-Moore, and we'll come to that in a minute. But Ballygunner against Mount Sion. Ballygunner beat 4 Mile Water 123 to 115. Mount Sion beat Passage 219 to 315, which is a very close run thing there. But we're going to style it as Austin Gleeson against Deise Hutchinson, or Ozzie Gleeson trying to bring down the Giants, the 41-game unbeaten Ballygunner.
How good is Ozzie going to have to be for a shock to happen here? Like, he's going to have to, he's going to have to be 3-5, 3-6, or 1-10 or 11 or something like that. The vast majority from play, that is probably what it's going to take.
He's going to have to produce a serious performance there, and obviously it can't just all be on him. But it's a serious. I mean, I'm just looking through the team here, the Waterford team, and seeing how many Mount Sion lads are on the starting team.
Very few.
Yeah, this was the game against Galway, and even on the bench. Yeah, they're just not really represented the way they used to be. There's nobody even on the bench here. He's the only Mount Sion lad in the 26 in that game against Galway. Ballygunner, actually, this is an interesting point. We know how dominant Ballygunner are. They going for 7 in a row, or is it 8 in a row? Somebody will clarify that. But the starting team, because we know a few lads are injured or have retired, or Pádraig Mahoney was injured, Stephen O'Keefe took the year away, Philip Mahoney's retired. But in the starting team for Waterford, Ian Kenny, Peter Hogan, who only really established himself as a consistent starter this past year, and Deise Hutchinson. And yet they're so dominant in the county championship. Even looking at the bench here, there's there's nobody on the bench in this All-Ireland qualifier match last year. And it's funny that they're not as massively represented on the county team as you would have thought, despite dominating their county championship. And you can nearly say that about Coola too, because Coola have won 5 of the last 6 in Dublin, but at the moment it was only Cian O'Callaghan who was starting there last season. I think, Sean Moran was in and out. I'm not sure if anyone else was, actually.
Is that a benefit to some club teams to not have a big representation on their county team when they have a lot of guys at a really high level? So they're obviously training together throughout the year. They're playing good practice matches while the county are playing. They're developing a style of play. Whereas with some teams, you're missing a couple of really big names that you would build your team around, and you're only getting them back, 3 or 4 weeks before a championship. So Coola have a style of play in the absence of, a couple of players. Obviously, Con not being involved is probably difficult as well. But Ballygunner, and the last couple of times I've seen Ballygunner play, it's just very, very systematic. There's no star players in the sense that everybody chips in their own way. Deise Hutchinson would obviously probably be the star man in attack. But even looking at their quarter final against 4 Mile Water, Deise didn't score until the second half, but he set up a load of scores. They've loads of lads. Kevin Matney can hurt you. Mikey Matney can hurt you. Pádraig Matney can hurt you. Deise Hutchinson can hurt you. Peter Hogan can hurt you. They've a load. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. They've a load of different lads that can hurt you. So maybe, and they're so well seasoned together now at this stage, down to the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah,
Conor Sheehan's another good player. Pádraig Mahoney back into the starting team the first time the last day. Philip Mahoney, I presume, is still out. Did he have a leg break?
I think he has a leg break, yeah. Just on that as well, Barry Coughlin could still be involved in the Waterford panel if circumstances allowed. Philip Mahoney could still be involved in the Waterford panel. Stephen O'Keefe wasn't involved last year, but he was involved the year before and could be involved again. So while they mightn't have a massive representation on the Waterford panel, they could have if those guys were, available to go in, but they obviously, for varying reasons, they're not. It's not as if they don't have a load of lads on the county panel because they're not good enough.
Yeah, from Mount Sion, they'll also need the likes of Stephen Roach producing, Martin O'Neill, players like that. They will need everyone firing in that game. A lot of it too, you're probably a few points behind psychologically just when you're up against a team that hasn't lost in so long. And also, like you were saying there, they're ultimate sort of team players. They're happy to always pass the ball off to each other. Deise Hutchinson, sure, I'll get a score eventually, which he tends to do, even if he's...
Yeah. You'd just be worried. You're worried enough Passage hit them for 3 goals the last day. If Ballygunner really go at them, they could hit them for 3 or 4 easy. And the only way Mount Sion win this game is... probably to hold them to minimum of 1 goal even, if they get 2 or more, I just can't see it. To me, this is set up for, Ballygunner to have them at arm's length for most of the game and win by 7 or 8.
Yeah, and Rowan Moore against Dungarvan, then Rowan Moore beat Lismore in that classic game, an 8-goal thriller, 4-14 to 4-13. Dungarvan put up 5-16 against Abbeyside, who themselves put up 1-18. County footballer Michael Kiley, not to be confused with the Abbeyside Michael Kiley, who was on the
as I did.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think people would understand. It's hard to keep track of club players all over the county, but Michael Kiley scored a hat-trick and looks like a bit of a goal machine. Patrick Kern, he was excellent, got plenty of scores too. Did you notice with his penalties, the 2 of them, he sort of cut across the ball?
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a different style, but it was obviously very effective. Got a few nice scores from play. He was out around centre forward. And then Rowan Moore looking to reach their first final since 1990. Outside of Billy Nolan, I'm not really sure if there's anyone Rowan Moore who's in there. Billy Nolan
they wouldn't have massive representation on county squads, no. So it's probably a surprise that they've gotten this far. It was even I would definitely have counted an upset to beat Lismore, at least more side that are coming. So it's a great opportunity for the 2 of them, isn't it? Whatever about the potential of getting to a county final and facing the Ballygunner juggernaut and maybe being blown away, that's obviously a possibility, but the opportunity to get there is huge. How many county finals does anybody get to play in a lifetime? Some don't get to play in any, only the lucky few do. So it's a huge opportunity there for the 2 of them.
Yeah, relegation semi-finals then, De La Salle against Ballysaggart. Ballysaggart would probably feel very hard done by being in relegation, having won 1 game and lost 2 at the death, having come up from intermediate. And then Clonea are against Ballyduff Upper.
Yeah, well, that's some star-studded relegation semi-final. Shane, Kieran and Stephen Bennett on the Ballysaggart side. You've you've Kevin Moore, Shane McNulty, Sean O'Brien, Jack Fagan on the De La Salle side. So like one fairly big gun, or there's going to be a lot of big guns on their side, is going to end up in a relegation semi-final. Then the other side you have Clonea, which would be Billy Power against Ballyduff Upper, which Mikey Carney probably be the best known player there. But De La Salle, Ballysaggert's going to be interesting. I think it's been streamed live actually, so that definitely be one to keep tuned into.
Yeah, and if anyone would let us know, there is Stephen Malumphey, who's now the Kerry hurling manager. Is he still playing for Ballyduff Upper? It'd be interesting to know if he is or isn't. We'll move on now to the Galway Championship. Plenty of games going on this weekend, but the ones we'll look at: St. Thomas's against Lee Mellows, Turlockmore against Castlegar, and Loughrea against Tommy Larkins. I'll just run through the first couple, and you can sort of jump in with the last game. Then, like, Lee Mellows basically have to win after losing the first round against Captagal, who had only 14 men for most of that game. I was talking to David Connors at the Tuam Hurley. He was giving me some of the background. Jam Mannion had been sent off early in the game, but Mellows basically having to win now after losing against Captagal. Turlockmore, they're up against Castlegar. Turlockmore probably feel like they underperformed a little bit in the county final last year against St. Thomas's, but they had a poor first round draw against Crockwell, who they'd be expecting to win against. Sean Lennon, we saw him getting injured for Galway this year, so Lennon is a big loss. Fergal Lynch and Saoirse Bulfern, they're on the line for Castlegar. Everyone will know the Clare men there. And then the final game, Loughrea against Tommy Larkins.
Yeah, Saoirse Bulfern, I've been regularly informed is the correct way to pronounce his name, Saoirse. So that's just to put that on the record. But we played both Turlock and Castlegar earlier on this year with Burr. Two different type of teams. Castlegar play a big possession game, and they're hard enough to handle without having any big names. Turlock could have a couple of bigger names, obviously, with Dahi Burke and can't think of the wing-back's name now as well, but they'd have plenty of high-profile names. We're in a county final last year. Sean Lennon's a big loss for them, and could be the difference in them getting back to that stage.
Conor Walsh looks good. I like the cut of Conor Walsh's jib.
Yeah, I like the cut of his jib. He looks like a good player as well. Yeah, and they move the ball around well, and then you have Loughrea against Tommy Larkins as well. So Jeff Linsky is over. Is he from Loughrea? I'm not 100% certain, but I think he might be. They're going pretty well against Tommy Larkins. That's obviously Cyril Farrell, who we mentioned earlier on. That's his club. It's also Jason Flynn and the keeper, Anna Murphy's club as well. So they beat Tommy Larkins last year in the opening round, and they need a win at Loughrea do, because they let a 6-point halftime lead slip against Sarsfields and were beaten. So they're probably the three biggest games of the weekend. Yeah, but things getting moving now in Galway. It's obviously a bit more pronounced in the likes of Waterford and even in Tip, but plenty moving in the background there in Galway.
CK Streeman has clarified the situation with Colin Reardon. He's from Calais, transferred back to them a few years ago, has played a few mid-junior B semi-finals and final games for them over the last few years when he was home from Australia. Geez, what would he have been like against junior B players?
Hadn't realised that. But I presume if he wanted to play hurling, he would have played with the Brackens. I'm fairly sure he would have hurled with the Brackens. But that's unreal. Like, imagine, like, what would the opposition be thinking here? Would you be double, triple teaming him probably if you were coming back, this absolute monster from Australia? One lad jump with him, one lad jump in his back, and another lad jump in front of him or something like that.
Yeah, he's going to be beaten either way. John Ryan says, some great shows of late, lads. Broad spectrum of all grades of hurling and football have been covered. Great content. A reminder, we are brought to you by Torpy and the Bamboo Hurley. Please do subscribe to the channel. Just hit that button in the bottom right hand corner if you're watching on YouTube. Helps the channel grow. It's absolutely free to do, so really would appreciate you doing that. And patreon.com/OurGame is the only place to get audio podcasts, $5 a month, and it is a great way to support the channel. So we really would appreciate people doing that. We jump onto the Offaly Championship, which is on this weekend. Obviously, a championship you know only too well, being in the thick of it. But first off, like Belmont, obviously, their preparations have been hampered by the fact that Oisín Kelly, he's after suffering a cruciate. What a massive blow to both the club and the county, and obviously Michael Fennelly, who will be manager. Yeah,
Belmont are looking to win their first hurling title. Ollie Baker's over them. They've probably struggled in their first two games. They've been beating them. They're playing us this weekend. And like both teams need a win, but they probably particularly need a win. And Oisín's out, and he's going to be out for 8 or 9 months now. And for band footballers who he kicks football with are going to be badly hit as well. He was one of their best players when they won the county title 2 years ago. So just a bit of a disaster for all concerned. I was chatting to him briefly yesterday. He's hoping to be back for the Joe McDonagh, but even that's, 9 months from now, and he'd be looking at getting operated in early October. 9 months from early October would be early July. So, going to be under pressure. It's an awful blow for himself, but it's an awful blow for the hurlers as well, because you're going back up playing Division 1 hurling. He's the sort of lad that can just dominate because he's so good in the air. He could go really well in those winter conditions or even in the summer conditions. He scored 7 points from play in the ring final, and one of our best players, one of our best forwards. So wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he's able to get back to play, feature in the Joe McDonagh. If we could get him back even at 60-70% at some stage of the Joe McDonagh, you'd like to think we'd still have a decent chance of winning it, but it is a massive loss.
Yeah, it certainly is. Any other games in particular in Offaly that people should keep an eye out on?
Yeah, Kildare are playing Rhinus and Burr. There's a doubleheader in Burr on Sunday. That's going to be really interesting. Kildare have won their first 2 games so far. Rhinus are going for 3 in a row and have won their first 2 games so far as well. So that's probably there's a doubleheader. We're playing in Tullamore Sunday, preceded by Drumcullen and Ballynamere, and then there's a doubleheader in Burr on Sunday as well. Rhinus and Clarine, and then I think it's Sir Kieran and Kinnity in the first game, and Shinrone play Kilcormac on Sunday and Banner. I think it was supposed to be Saturday, but the 2 Kileys, Cahill and Keelan, are in the Puck Fada, All-Ireland Puck Fada this Saturday, which will be interesting up the Coolies again. Great to see it back again. One of those great traditions. I love competitions like that. There's not doesn't get massive exposure, but it's one of those. It's like the Railway Cup for me, and it's funny that Martin Donnelly's the main sponsor of that and was the main sponsor of the Railway Cup as well. I just love traditional competitions like that. I've never been up to the Coolies. I must go up sometime because I'd say it's an experience. Was it a 5K course? Heavy wet ball, heavy wet hurls, miserable conditions. It's it's the ultimate test of a strike, isn't it?
You shouldn't work in marketing or PR.
No, but I'm trying to paint it as what it realistically is. I'm not like, is it Lionel Hutz or whatever his name is in The Simpsons? They're talking about houses, and you're looking at this dilapidated house, and he's like, "It's a fixer-upper." I won't paint it to be something that it's not. But I'd love to go up. I'd love to go up and see it. Anybody that goes up to follow that type of thing is hardcore GA fan.
Yeah, without doubt. Comment in here from Bert Giggles, Ash Tiger, I think. Great stuff, lads. Finally, a channel giving high-quality media coverage to clubs and club players. Great insights around the different counties, which you don't hear anywhere else. Appreciate that comment there. We'll jump on to the Laois County Championship. After 2 rounds of game, it's amazing that nobody is out of the championship yet. Although Rathdowney, Earl, Burrs, Kilcotton, Clock, Ballacalla and Castletown, they're definitely through. And they're all playing now for the right to go straight through to the semi-finals and avoid having to take the longer quarter-final route. So there are a couple of games of interest coming up here, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. And fair play to Stephen Miller from Laois Today. The amount of information available that he makes available on the Laois Today website, on these games is just fantastic. So Abbey Leaks are playing Camross tonight, and whoever loses will end up in the relegation playoff. Particularly from a Camross point of view, that would be a disaster because they didn't feature in the knockout stages last year, and for that to happen 2 years in a row just would not be good for a county with their tradition. They were obviously last county champions in 2018. So Abbey Leaks have been more impressive of the two by all accounts. They pushed Rathdowney Earl and Borris Kilcotton much closer than Camross did in their 2 games. But Camross have Zane Keenan back. He played some of the last game against Borris Kilcotton. They haven't really hit full form yet, but they'd probably still be marginal favourites here. Just to go through their games so far, Rathdowney bet Camross 28 points to 117, and Borris Kilcotton beat Abbey Leaks, or that was 23 points apiece, I should say. And then Borris Kilcotton beat Camross 224 to 121, and Rathdowney Earl beat Abbey Leaks 122 to 117. Borris Kilcotton play Rathdowney Earl tomorrow evening. Both teams are safely through. So, and a draw will be enough to ensure that Rathdowney Earl top the group and go through to the semi-final. And then the other major game will be Clock Ballacalla, the reigning county champions. Obviously, they go up against Castletown. I know Castletown well. We would have had great battles with them down through the years. The Cuddies in particular. That's on Saturday in O'Moore Park. And then Rose and Alice, who progressed well last year. John O'Loughlin, the Laois footballer, was playing with them, having transferred back there to what I think was his dad's club many moons ago. The winner goes through to a quarter final when Rose and Alice play the Harps. The loser goes into the relegation final, and if it's a draw, the Harps will go through on scoring difference. So lots going on in Laois, kind of heating up again. Funny situation for them, and a funny situation for Rhinus, Kilcormac and Offaly, who are not long gone from the 2020 final, delayed, and then going into another year. Like, Jays would be a fairly special year to win 2 county finals in the space of about 2 or 3 months. Imagine the winter. Imagine the Christmas.
I can imagine. A couple of games also in Kilkenny this weekend. The Roar, these are games that were put back last week because of bereavements, unfortunately, in the clubs. So this weekend, the Roar in Ishtig, they're against Bennett's Bridge, and Aaron's Own are up against Mullinavat. So a lot of the moving and shaking has already happened in Kilkenny, but there's certainly a little bit at stake for a couple of these teams.
No, there is definitely, yeah. The Bridge obviously had that big win against Ballyhale, and they'll be looking to keep going there. And Aaron's Own, I think Martin Fogarty is up against Mullinavat. So yeah, there's like no one's going to be knocked out or anything like that, but it would definitely give yourself a more advantageous position in the knockout stages. Just an interesting thing, Shane, hasn't been announced or anything yet, but the Cork Camogie manager, Paddy Murray, who obviously, I think he's trained him to 4 All-Irelands, I think 14, 15, 17 and 18. He was obviously working with the Cork Camogie team as manager this year, but he was also working with the Cork under-16 team. And the natural progression amongst those underage teams in Cork is that he was with the 14s, 15s and 16s. The progression is that, and that's the way it has been in recent years, that they take over the minors. So it is believed that he's going to take over the Cork minors. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's able to juggle duties with the Cork Camogie job, which I find it hard to believe that he would be able to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
He'd be out every night of the week if that was the case.
Yeah, you want a very understanding family anyway. But they obviously just came up short against Galway. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It would be a fairly big vacancy. It's kind of him and his brother Kevin Murray, that used to play with Cork, will be the drivers of Cork Camogie. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next while as well.
Yeah, well, quick word on the Kerry football job. Obviously, we normally talk hurling here only, but like, there's talk now of Stephen Stack coming in. People might remember him, a former player. But what an apparent team he's got lined up with Mickey Ned O'Sullivan, Donny Buckley, Seamus Moynihan, and Dara O'Canada. I mean, what would the Kerry County Board do in terms of the interview committee if this group of men walks in? How do you say no to that?
Yeah, it's outrageously impressive, isn't it? In fairness, I've chatted to Mickey Ned a couple of times. Mickey Ned would have had Donny Buckley working with him in Limerick, and like, he just nearly in awe of his coaching ability. To have Seamus Moynihan in, then I believe it was rumoured as backs coach, and Dara Coneda as forwards coach. It's just, it's an unbelievable setup as well. And they also said there was a bit more to that as well. I think that it said that it was Joe O'Connor, who's obviously the Kerry-based S&C coach, who was with Limerick in 2018, and I believe he was with Clare in 2013 as well. He would also be part of that ticket, as would former Kerry star Aidan O'Mahony. I think it's that ticket that they're part of. But there's rumours then as well that Jack O'Connor, if he's in the mix, that Kieran Donaghy, who was working as coach with Kieran McGeeney in Armagh last year, would be on his ticket as well. So like, you're looking at like all of the big hitters here in Kerry football involved in this job. And that's not to mention, the outgoing manager, Peter Keane. But to me, like, the writing definitely looks on the wall that Peter Keane will not be involved next year. Like, it really does.
It does feel that way. And I in many ways, wouldn't it have been simpler to just have the meeting of the management committee beforehand and just, are we going to go with Peter Keane again next year? We know what the man is about. And then just say to him, look, we're not going to go with you. If that's how they feel. Now, maybe they feel differently. And maybe in some ways, they're going through the motions of having an interview process here. And maybe they know they're keeping on Peter Keane. It doesn't feel that way, but there's always that outside chance as well.
There's been that many twists, Shane. There's been that many twists with managers this year between Jack O'Connor, almost issuing a come get me plea for the Kerry job, and then stepping away from Kildare, from Liam Cattle being the next Tipperary manager to Liam Cattle staying on with Waterford, but Shane O'Neill leaving, and God only knows whoever taking over in Galway. I wouldn't be surprised if anything happened in Kerry. Maybe Peter Keane will be still in charge next year. You wouldn't know. Funnily
enough, I interviewed Stephen Stack earlier in the year, and I was talking about a few different things, and I just read out a couple of his quotes. Now, this was obviously long before Kerry lost the All-Ireland semi-final. I think it was just coming into the championship. So you'll have to accept the fact that he at this stage, didn't know how the championship would pan out. But he goes, winning championships and winning All-Irelands is incredibly hard work, and you have to be prepared to work really hard to win an All-Ireland. So it's a value set that you would think would be in all Kerry fellas, to work hard when you don't have the ball and when you do have it. If a half forward is up the pitch and he doesn't have the ball, I expect him to work like a back to slow the man up. When Kerry do that, and when their forwards and midfielders do that, lo and behold, the backs play well because the pressure is on out the field. And I actually asked him, had the team moved on from the 2020 Cork defeat at this point? Now, obviously, they went on and battered Cork this year, and he goes, there are scars there, all right, no question. Kerry don't like losing to Cork, so I can tell you that the scar is still there and won't go away until such a time as they have an opportunity to set the record straight. Cork won last year, and I don't care what people are saying about missed opportunities or anything. The best team always wins. That's the end of the story. Cork showed up and we didn't. And then actually, funnily enough, he was one of those players who played in 1992 when Clare shocked Kerry in that Munster final. And he goes, I remember playing that day, and make no mistake about it, we were hanging on from the time the ball was thrown in. So that was no Clare fluke. I don't have any recollections of saying we should or could have won that game. They were the better team and won it. They were also unlucky after that against Dublin. There was a bit of a controversy, I think. So that was a really good Clare team who played in some of the higher divisions. It was just unfortunate, but it doesn't leave you, that's for sure. That wariness is there, so you have to show every team respect. They were better than us and deserve to win, and that's it. So that's just giving a bit more background on Stephen Stack for people who don't know him all that well. But whether he ends up in the job or not is another thing.
He's assembled an absolute masterpiece of a backroom team. It looks like a case of, so many things falling into place with that backroom team.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. We kind of have it all said, have we?
Yeah, just some ball of club action this weekend. And look, I have to say, the likes of Bio Sport and a few others who put out clips online and different people that have supporting the clubs and having all these stream services. It's great because it keeps people going. TG Catter obviously have been the main one, drivers of that over the last while, and just some of the games that they're going to have on over the weekend too. It's great to have it to look forward to. It definitely shortens the winter anyway.
Yeah, and a reminder, we are brought to you by Torpy and the Bamboo Stick. Use the promo code OurGame and you'll get 10% off. Please do subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free and it helps the channel grow. If you want this channel to keep kicking on, please do subscribe there. I think only maybe half the people who watch ever do subscribe. So we could get those numbers up over 10,000 followers on YouTube very quickly.
Get your asses in gear and press that subscribe button.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to go to patreon.com, you can get the audio podcast. It's a $5 a month. And again, all about supporting the channel. So, all right, that's it. Thanks very much, Michael. We'll chat to you again.
Cheers, Shane. Good luck.
The Hurling Show, brought to you in association with Torpy. Torpy are leading hurling into a new future with Bamboo, a revolutionary hurley created using their unique engineered hurling performance know-how. Already being used by many inter-county players, Torpy's Bamboo is highly sustainable, offers players greater striking distance and a more consistent balance every time, without compromising on natural feel. Check them out on the Torpy website and in the link below and enter the promo code OurGame to get yourself 10% off.